A lot of times when we start training martial arts, the reason we do it is not so much fascination, but fear. You know, we're afraid. Maybe something has happened to us. Maybe we've been hurt. Maybe we've been attacked. Maybe we just got beat up by older siblings or by kids in school, and we didn't want that to happen anymore, so we trained because we were afraid. To the extent that that fear stays with us across the ages, I think it has two toxic effects. One is that it causes us to be incredibly critical of one another as martial artists. We're always looking at other people going, well, that'll never work. That's not good. That's, you know, a lot of the criticism that we send out about how other people do their martial arts is really based on the idea that we are afraid that ours won't be very effective. It's really about that fear of our own vulnerability. That problem is really difficult. So we project our fear outward and we turn it into criticism and a sort of blindness to what's possible. We might see somebody do a technique or have some idea or an approach that actually makes sense, but because we're afraid to acknowledge our own weakness and vulnerability, we can't allow ourselves room to think that maybe, you know, I need to add something to my art, that my art is not complete, that there's a good idea out there that I can include. I was lucky I learned this lesson really early on because I realized that when you've never seen something before, that it may not seem from the outside to be a particularly useful technique, but it might actually be. I once had a sparring match with a guy. We were pretty evenly matched in skill and years of training. He was Taekwondo, I was Shotokan Karate at the time. And he did a technique I had never really seen before. It was a backspin wheel kick, you know, just really big and wide and the legs swinging around like that. And I'd never seen one before. I mean, you see them in the movies, but then you're always looking at it sideways to see it coming at you. I remember looking at it like, what is that? And then it hit me. I mean, literally, it hit me. And so I realized that, you know, when you look at somebody else's technique and you think to yourself, well, that'll never work, that might work. Especially if it's something you've never been on the receiving end of. It might only work once, but it might work. So out of our fear that maybe something will work against us and that we'll lose, we criticize each other and we wall ourselves off and we say, well, I know everything I need to know. The second way in which fear really hurts us is when we're afraid of losing, when we're afraid of being defeated, it interferes with our ability to do our technique. Fear inhibits our capacity to move, our capacity to accomplish anything. If, on the other hand, I've accepted something, yeah, I'm probably going to lose this fight. One of the things that does is that gives me the capacity to fight to the utmost of my ability because I'm not trying to not lose. You know, that fear of losing is such a barrier. If I know I'm going to get hit, then I can concentrate on hitting the other guy. If I know that I'm going to get knocked down, hey, if I know that I'm going to get the living snot beat out of me, but I can at least make the decision that I'm going to make them remember this fight. It gives me the capacity to fight harder, to fight longer, and to be maybe a little more effective. Martial arts is, I think, in many ways about overcoming our fears. But we don't overcome our fears by becoming invulnerable. We overcome our fears by accepting our own vulnerability and realizing that what our martial arts does is simply increase our capacity within the limitations that we have. But no matter how long you train, no matter how good you get, you can still lose a fight. Pretty much to anybody. Which is scary until you accept it. I'm Chris Thomas, and these are some reflections from the Master Class. Thanks for watching. Now go train.